We are live.
Live, this is Senate Appropriation, it's Pumpkin Pie Day. And it's February 11th. We got our first bill of the year signed to the committee. And it's a bill brought to us by Senator Watson, so she's been presented.
Super. Well, thank you. So this is S218, affectionately known as the SALT bill, also the chloride bill, just because I guess SALT is another acronym for something.
Right.
Okay, well, it's not that. It is literally about chloride. So this is a bill that has had a bit of a journey in this building. It started its life last year as S29. This is actually language I think that you haven't seen before. But
Do we have a copy of the bill? Or it's on ours?
You have S218, which is on your committee's website as introduced, which is was passed on committee.
It is asking.
Yeah. So as S29, it started in natural resources. We took a lot of testimony on it, and it ended up having relevance to both transportation as well as judiciary. And so we were able to get input from the transportation committee at that time, and it also went to Senate Judiciary. So you be familiar with that. And it ended up as language that was in 319, which ended up not going anywhere. And so it is back in this iteration as S218, which is standalone and is the agreed upon language that ended up basically in 319. So just to recap what this bill does. So the premise of it is that we are experiencing an increased amount of fluoride in our landscape. So it's showing up in people's drinking water, it's showing up in bodies of water around the state, and increasing that salinity means that the biodiversity of species is under a lot of stress. And of course, the source of that is primarily from salting of roads, parking lots, and sidewalks and stuff. Now it's to the point where, I mean, you're familiar with the idea of TMDLs, total maximum daily load for phosphorus. Maybe this is another concept. When we started this process, there was one TMDL for salt, for chloride, in Chittenden County. And because it had such a degree of chloride contamination. And since we've started that bill, there's actually a handful more. There's something like 4, or there's a set that's supposed to be TMDLs this year and some more next year, because the process takes a while. Anyway, so it's an increasing problem. And so getting back to where it comes from, so if it's mainly coming from our salting our roads, sidewalks, and parking lots, one of the pressures that exists there is that if people are unsure how much salt is adequate in the absence of any further guidance, well, if some salt is good, then more salt is better. And the possibility that someone might get sued for the slip and fall type accident if they have not sufficiently salted, then there's this pressure to oversalt a surface. So that is what this bill aims to address. It creates a voluntary program for commercial private salt applicators to participate in that would help them understand best management practices around salt, so they would know this is how much salt is appropriate given these conditions. And then if they go through the program and they follow the best management practices and they've done the record keeping for that, then what they would gain is some level of liability protection for slip and fall type accidents. So that's sort of the main part of the bill, but it also asks the municipal roads program, which is run by the transportation, to do some work in their curriculum on this, to include salt as a part of their curriculum that they already offer to municipal road crews. So that's a part of it. There's also, I believe, a study in here, or report on, the state's management of salts and, sand storage facilities. So that we understand, how many of these places we have, where they are, and, sort of what exposure the state has in terms of, salts leaching out, into waterways. So that is, I think that covers the content generally. In terms of the appropriation, so section 6 is the appropriation, but well, I guess it's not really appropriation. It is, it says that the, program, the Agency of Natural Resources does not need to move forward for the program unless they have funding to do it. They expressed to us concern that they are sometimes asked to run these programs and then they don't get the sufficient funding. And so, they were hoping to avoid that situation. Like, we don't have the money to do it. We don't want to have to put on the program. So that's what the contingent, funding is about. Though it's worth, so otherwise it's not have an appropriation in here, but it is worth, identifying that we do anticipate that there would be some cost to set up the program. So, and this is, we actually started the bill with $250,000 to get started. We may want to hear from the Agency of Natural Resources on this. My understanding is that they are estimating that it would cost $200,000 to stand up a program, and it's not even necessarily with an FTE, because it could be provided by a third party, and so it could be a contracted service. And then, as I understand it, Agency of Transportation is also looking for some funding for their part of it. I'll let them, or we can maybe hear more about that. So that is, generally speaking, the bill and the appropriations implications.
So there's no funding, section 3 was. That's one of the sections that isn't.
The section that is most relevant, something that I did not mention is that there is a fee report. Part of the intention with this program is that fees would at least in part go to pay for the program on an ongoing basis. But we don't know what those should be, so that's why there's a fee report baked into this. But sorry, to get to your question, the contingent implementation and funding is section 6.
Right, but it says when duty to implement sections 2, 4, and 5 is contingent. So that makes me think that section 3 is not contingent. Which is just not just, but it's a study of all uncovered.
Right. So regardless of funding, we want them to do that. Yeah, get us that information. Right, but it's the program aspect of it that.
Right, that they would be.
Yeah.
And study. And they're not, they want to, I don't know if you added this in, and they wanted that specific purpose, immigration for the specific purpose. And they're not like potentially finding this funding somewhere else in the township or something.
That is my understanding.
Good, you like did our work for us, but
Sorry.
it's enormous. Are you done with your?
I am.
I just had a quick question. I don't know, we're looking at 218 or 219, vice versa, whatever it is now. Did the affirmative defense change at all in this? Not at all. And are we looking at establishing our own program, or we're going to mirror New Hampshire's program? What are we looking at here?
Sorry, so I did not mention that, but yes, this program is intended to mirror what New Hampshire's program does. So it's very similar. Could do. It's conceivable that Vermont could contract with the same people to run our program. I think there may be some detailed differences, but in general, I think it's basically. Thank you for that. Forgot.
I thought you had your own game going here. I didn't know.
Oh, no.
So,
We didn't invent this idea.
Senator Brennan. I lost the section here, but the section on, training and who third party potential for training.
Yes.
Are there any people out there who do this?
Yes, in New Hampshire, there's also people in New York, who could potentially.
So if the agency doesn't know.
Yes,
Contract with the
yep.
third party.
And I suspect they may be both of that.
Okay. Any other questions? Well,
I just,
go ahead.
full of information.
Yeah,
So are we? I take it they've got a straw poll or vote or something.
I'm gonna take a vote, but I was gonna have JFO, because I think there's a fiscal item just to get that zero work. Are you ready? So, yeah. I assume that this section 6, the fiscal note is 3.
Yes, this is a relatively brief fiscal note. There is a copy posted online on the committee webpage. As you heard, implementation of most of the section of the bill, apart from section 3, that report from A&R about salt storage facilities would be contingent. Implementation would be contingent on receiving an appropriation for this dedicated purpose. JFO, so nothing happens unless you all and others agree to, for those sections, provide an appropriation. Regarding a potential appropriation amount, Joint Fiscal Office has been in touch with the Agency of Transportation, the Agency of Natural Resources, to get a sense for what an appropriate amount might be for those agencies to implement the work that's contemplated in the bill. A&R estimates that $350,000 would be necessary for program implementation. That's roughly, excuse me, roughly in line with what they had presented for similar versions of this bill that circulated last year. That $350,000 consists of one-time $200,000 appropriation for contracted services to kind of develop the program, help to develop the best practices on which it would be training salt applicators, as well as a recurring $150,000 appropriation, which would be used for a permanent classified position within the Agency of Natural Resources to run the program. So that's within A&R. You'll see in the bill also that training for municipal salt applicators would be run through the Vermont Local Roads Program, which is, for those of you who aren't familiar, kind of a technical assistance program provided by AOT to municipal roads departments. This bill would direct AOT to incorporate the chloride contamination reduction program training into Vermont local roads for municipal certification. AOT has also been in touch with the Joint Fiscal Office and estimates that they would need $350,000 for that work, which consists of $200,000 for contracted services and $150,000 for a permanent classified position. Both of those costs are anticipated to be recurring by the Agency of Transportation. I would just share with the committee that I think I've been in touch with the agency separately. I've looped kind of all three of us, JFO, A&R, and AOT together on the email chains and talked about potential cost sharing, how that appropriation might be spread across the agencies. And I think both agencies agree there is the potential for some of the work in this bill to be contemplated in this bill to be spread across those two agencies, as well as some of the appropriated monies to be shared across those two agencies. But if that's something the agency is interested in hearing, or that the committee is interested in hearing more about, I would certainly encourage you all to hear from A&R and AOT, because I know they have thoughts on both what it would take, what would be necessary to implement this program through their respective agencies, as well as how they might work together and with you all on the legislative side to dig into what an appropriation, a sufficient appropriation would look like and what the opportunities are for them to maybe share, for example, some of those contracted services for getting the program up and running. And I know they would also appreciate the opportunity to share more about, for example, how the Local Roads program works and how they contemplate incorporating this work into that program. But yeah, so to summarize, implementation largely contingent on an appropriation. And there's information in the fiscal note on what the agencies have estimated for their own respective implementation costs.
And they didn't report any implementation costs for section 3.
That being the report from A&R on road salt storage. No, in my communications with DEC, I've been working with Bethany Sargent from DEC on this. They have not flagged any implementation costs for section 3. I think we have A&R in the room if they would like to flag any, but that they've not flagged a cost associated with section 3. I believe the idea is that it will be accomplished through their base, but I shouldn't speak for the agency.
Charles Martin, A&R. So I think we contemplate that report obligation being a handful of hours and probably not notable for purposes of this. So something that the information essentially already exists. We just need to request it, package it, and send it to the legislature.
Okay, thank you. So the fiscal impact is with the section 6 contingency language is de minimis. Depending
Meaning section 3,
the whole bill.
as currently drafted, as it's currently before you all, yes. If obviously if the appropriation were made, it would no longer be de minimis. As it's before you all, it's entirely contingent.
You have it.
Well, I guess what I just want to, if you all feel like you do need a position for this, I want to make sure that you have the space to say that, because I was like, oh, maybe not, but if you,
Are you talking about section 3?
for setting up the program, not for section 3, but for setting up the program. Yeah,
I think we did definitely
You do want-
contemplate an
okay.
FTE.
Okay,
For sure
okay.
there. That's not,
What-
by no means am I requesting an FTE for this bill.
yeah,
Just saying
okay.
we envision there's being some work that might
Right,
require. us.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that I was staying accurate on that.
And Brady, you're here for support, or did you have? She said, I'm here for everything you need me for. Is this language we always have the contingency, or did it change anyway specifically for this bill, other than identifying the specific sections?
So
The way it's always worked.
it's very close. We were directed by House Appropriations to come up with some uniform contingency language because it's for new programs such as this. You're looking for placeholders effectively until you reach your final negotiation. This isn't exactly the same as the placeholder language we came up with because we came up with that after the study. But it's sufficiently close.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, with that, I would entertain a motion.
Well, just before that, I have one question and I'll ask it I've asked it every single time. The towns are not mandated.
The towns are not mandated.
No coverage,
You're good.
But
no coverage, no
There-
cover requirement.
We'll get the report we talked about in transportation about
yep,
how many are covered or not covered.
yeah, well, actually, that shouldn't be a hard report to put together because 2/3 of the state that are in the Champlain Valley watershed, we already have the information for. It's the other third of the state that we don't.
Mhm.
So we know that, but I only asked that question because I will be asked about towns. And I got it from the leader of the PAC and the committee across the hall.
Okay.
Just ask one other question on the $200,000 appropriation from the agency on the local roads program.
Do you mean for V-Trans or for AMR?
For V-Trans.
Okay.
So that's an ongoing, it's incorporated into their program, the local roads program. At a $200,000 a year cost.
Maybe you should ask.
I'd love to, but I don't see anybody.
Instead, I would want to speak on behalf of the agency, but I can share with you the information that's been shared with me, communicating with AOT. So the Vermont Local Roads Program, I believe it's currently staffed by about two folks who run the existing curriculum. AOT anticipates that they would work with the contractor to deliver the trainings, is how they're currently envisioning implementing the bill. Working with the contractor on an ongoing basis to deliver any additional trainings that would be required under the chloride contamination reduction program. I think the agency anticipates that interest among municipal applicators would be quite high, given the benefits that the certification would incur. And they anticipate that they would need additional contractor and staff capacity to get those trainings up and running. So $200,000 on a recurring basis to actually run the programs, administer the trainings, and $150,000 for a full-time position, which in my conversations with AOT, they are envisioning will be primarily on the back end, supporting program logistics, scheduling, et cetera, given existing staffing constraints within the program.
So you said 150, but you're talking A&R there, it's 200 for AOT.
And from AOT, $150,000 for a full-time position. So they are estimating $200,000 recurring for contract support, as well as $150,000 for an FTE. Again, in speaking with both agencies, I think they both agree there might be some opportunities to share some of that work in consultation with the legislature, but that's what AOT is currently anticipating. Does that answer your question? It's two pots. It's kind of that 350,000 to AOT based on their estimate breaks into two pots, 200,000 for contracting and 150 for a position.
Okay, I guess. Yeah, I think I get it now. I was looking at the last line where it talks about local roads, needing one more permanent classified position, but that's the 200 that's up above part of that 350. So it's 350 altogether.
To AOT.
To
Yes.
AOT. And they're okay with it. Is anybody here to tell me they're okay with it?
I would want to speak for the agency on that point.
I don't know.
Yeah. The bill in itself, I want to support. Creating another classified position in the state that we're in, the lack of a better term, not the state of Vermont, but nature that we're in, I'm hesitant about that without taking some more testimony on it because, I think that I want to support the bill. I like, the theory behind it, so on and so forth, but as far as creating another classified position, I hesitate at that point in time versus, maybe looking at a one-time allocation until we're in better shape here, but the $350,000 that is going to increase incrementally over each year, as we all well, costs for health insurance, whatever retirement, it's going to increase every year. I'm just not sure this is the year that we should be putting a whole lot of full-time classified positions in. Nothing.
Oh, no.
Bill's good.
Okay.
It's the classified position that I'm hesitant.
Well, to be clear, this bill doesn't create a classified position, nor does it appropriate any money. So this just would, the fiscal note just says if they were to do the program, they would need a classified position, but it doesn't create one.
And
Well, if they were to, if we support it, they're going to create a position.
No, we'd have to approve them to give them the position, and we'd have to give them the money for this. And the bill does not give them any. But that's what that section 6 says, like.
Also, I can support the bill today and vote against the appropriation bill.
you should
I mean, we're getting section 3 done.
If you can't.
If the bill passes,
All you need
so section 3 would be, we get the report on the salt sheds. And then the other ones would be contingent on creating a position and the funding. I mean, maybe we give them the funding, they would find a way to do it without a position, do contracts, but there would be no position created and no appropriation.
So I guess I want to support Senator Watson's bill. That's not about the appropriation portion afterwards. I guess if A&R and AOT can share, I guess I'd want to hear from them.
Yeah, and so we will do this with any other bill that we get before we do the budget. If there's an appropriation in there, we'll take the same contingent language and say,
Take it up.
strip that out, put this in there. And then have that discussion as we do the whole big bill for M57.
Okay, that made me feel better, yes.
Yeah. We want you to feel.
Stop.
Okay, well, unless there's any comments or questions, I will entertain a motion to pass it bill favorably. Okay, so been moved favorably. The clerk. Now commence call the roll and we get turnout.
Let's bill not appropriations.
This is just the bill as presented with the contingent. Implementation with meets, there's no funding.
You want to hold it?
Yes.
Okay, Senator Baruth. Senator Brennan. Yes. Senator Lyon.
Yes.
Senator Norris.
Yes.
Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yes.
Senator Person.
Yes.
I just have to look at the appropriations.
Okay. Thank you, committee.
Yes.
So who will be the reporter? I assume it could be Senator Lyon.
Assume so.
You think she knows the girl enough to do it?
Right.
Probably does.
You can study it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a cram.
Yeah, if the agency makes sense tomorrow, I'll be happy to see it just by the end of somatic business.
That's a potential.
Oh, I like the way he
You know?
did.
You know?
What's harder?
Not saying no. This strategy.
They're putting all kinds of time in the stuff that it's
Already not.
yes.
Yeah, fair. Could be a net gain for
That game for everybody.
Yes.
You wanna, yeah.
Yeah.
Back off mute, and we're continuing testimony of the day, and this is about FY27 budget requests.
Right, yes, for the tax department.
You are the tax file. I'll let you introduce yourselves and give us your budget presentation.
Yeah, for the record, my name is Bill Schuldice IV. I think you get confused with my father and my mother. my son or my grandson, who's William Charles Schulmeister sixth. Last time I was in this room, I testified on behalf of the Agency of Commerce, who I was Secretary for Howard Dean in the nineties. And it's great to be here in my new capacity as Commissioner of Tax. Some of you may know I was, after I left state government, I was the President and CEO of the Orton Family Foundation, and I was President and CEO of the Vermont Country Store.
You have a long history.
And then I was President and CEO of Vermont Petty Bear Company before Andrew asked me to work with him here in the tax department. It's been great group of people. I was actually surprised during the interview process that I expected to see a bunch of folks who are just interested in catching Vermonters not paying their taxes. And that's not the case. They're very interested in making sure Vermonters take advantage of every tax opportunity they can under the belief system that it's not our money, it's theirs. And if we can get it back into their hands sooner rather than later, it certainly goes towards the governor's mandate of making Vermont as affordable as we can. We got a great staff and great customer service team, and we're in the middle of tax season right now. So between the kickoff for tax season and the legislative session, so kind of a big time later for us. My pleasure to be here.
Thanks for taking the job.
And now he's president and CEO of tax, similar to the federal model, doing away with commissioner titles. I'm joking. Andrew Stein, Chief Operating Officer of Taxes. Want to thank Commissioner Schuldice. Came in last year, middle of the legislative session, middle of the tax season. And, Craig Bolio, who was here before, wonderful, left the department in great shape. And, I think it's been really helpful to have somebody come in from the outside, big shoes to fill with Craig, but Bill's a commissioner of a different model and he brings a lot of experience and a lot of success to the department and a heavy emphasis on service, which resonates really well with our leadership team and our employees. And bringing that service perspective from the private sector and in the public sector earlier in his career has certainly benefited the department in a lot of ways. So we're regularly looking to build on what's working at the department, and we have a lot that is working, but there's a lot of area for improvement too. And bringing that fresh set of eyes, asking service-minded questions has really been helpful. And we've got a lot of big plans for the next year too. So I want to thank Commissioner Schuldice for that. All right, I'll get into the budget. We don't have that much time. So typically I begin, and you all have seen this, so I'm just going to breeze right by this, but we begin, with the mission, our goals to be a model of service-oriented tax administration, reduce the tax gap, and promote a healthy organizational culture that helps our employees thrive, and put an emphasis on our core values of service, integrity, growth, and community. And when we talk about growth, we're talking about the evolution of the workplace. We're talking about the department evolving with the times. We're talking about providing a solid career path and communicating with staff to meet goals and recognize their accomplishments and ensuring that there's a growth mindset, opportunities for education, those types of things. If service and integrity, I feel like those are the big ones for our department when we think about core values. Service is kind of at the forefront of everything we do. I think our leadership team does a good job. I think many of our employees do a good job, but we should in general be asking ourselves, how can we solve the problems facing Vermonters today? How can we best serve Vermonters? How can we meet Vermonters where they are? How can we treat each taxpayer fairly? How can we provide reliable, clear communication and guidance? And how can we promote voluntary compliance to reduce the tax gap? On the integrity side, with the amount of money we bring in, we brought over $3 billion last year for the state of Vermont. Most of that is from voluntary compliance. And the sensitivity of the information we have, this is a really critical one for us. And sometimes we have to weigh various process improvements and say, if this is a little bit more service minded and it creates some risk on the integrity side, we need to be able to identify that, mitigate them and live with them. Or sometimes we might say, the risks that this could potentially pose aren't worth the service gain. So sometimes when we're weighing various improvements or changes to processes, we look at things through those two lenses. And then community, the last of those values, that's kind of at the heart of everything we do in terms of the organization. We think about community, but also the communities we serve in Vermont. Really everything we do is in service of Vermont's communities. So
Can I ask you a question on your reduced the tax gap? goal?
please.
Do you know what tax gap is?
We don't have so we do not know what we do not know. It's a
It's a
difficult
hard goal to know if you meant it. You know?
yeah, and so you can scale that. So
I saw that.
you can scale what the federal government's done, and the federal government doesn't have the exact same tax portfolio that the state of Vermont has.
Now it's from
So
12 years ago.
if we scale it to if we scale it to the IRS's former estimates to Vermont, it's about $300 million. So it's a bit over $300 million.
So how do you know if you're hitting the goal?
How do we know if we're hitting the goal? So
Improving.
yeah. So there are a number of compliance initiatives that we have, targeted audit programs. Like right now, a big targeted audit program of ours is around the child care contribution.
Right.
The new child care contribution. And so we know, for example, what that audit program is yielding. We also know, and in a lot of cases, it's helping taxpayers understand their obligations, taxpayers filing amended returns and us seeing gains there. We do quantify various compliance activities that we do. Yeah, we track that in our system. I think we could do a better job of tracking after we get compliance from taxpayers, tracking moving forward what we've received in voluntary compliance. But it can be tough to say, like, say that it's due to compliance at a certain point if the taxpayer's been complying for 5, 6, 10 years. There's changes in organizations, what have you. But yeah, we do, and I'd be happy to circle back if you're interested. We do quantify various compliance activities. So right now we're doing a big exercise internally, looking at updating our KPIs, our key performance indicators, and some of those pertain to reducing the tax gap. So some of those performance measurements that we want to be looking at over time are based around reducing the tax gap, and they're focused on various forms of compliance.
And you collect them every year.
What's that?
It's a annual KPI.
Some are annual, some are depending on what the KPI is. Frankly, right now I just reviewed a draft from our team that's working on this, and some of the questions that I had for some of them are, how frequently do we want to take a snapshot of this? So for example, vacancy savings, if we're looking at promoting a healthy organizational culture that helps our employees thrive, looking at retention is a really good way of looking at that. And in terms of vacancy, not vacancy savings, but our percent of vacant positions. How frequently do we want to assess that? I'd say annually it's not ideal. So maybe on a quarterly basis we do that. In this presentation, we have a metric for our vacancy rate, and it's based on a 12-month snapshot. So we took a snapshot each month and then average that to say this was our vacancy rate. So that's an example.
Okay.
Whereas another one that's going to be annual is what percentage of refunds did we issue by June 1? If that's going to be an annual one every year. And we aim to hit 95% by June 1. Within 45 days at the end of the filing.
Makes sense.
So with regard to our budget, we're looking at a $38 million budget this year. That's up about, I believe it's 2.34% increase year over year across all of our funds. 90% of that salaries and benefits and IT. That's the bulk of our spending. We had our bread and butter IT system, VTax, our integrated tax system, very high performing system. It's the same system that the state of California uses, New York, Massachusetts, Finland, New Zealand, Denmark is going to be implementing this system. For example, 30 30 plus other states use this system. It's built by this company called Fast Enterprises. They just built the new DMV system and they're working with DOL to overhaul their system. We have some other IT systems as well. We just wrapped up our new scanning system, which I put under current initiatives here. Now our new scanning system is fully implemented. We've gained a ton of efficiencies from that. We are in the middle of, we're at the end of implementing a new property tax system for the state and for municipalities. That's been a little rockier than our past IT rollouts. And we're kind of straddling that system in another system built by the company Nemrick. That's a really tough one. The property tax system is a really tough one. It's really a property tax system is not the most standard, not the most consistent, not the most consolidated of property tax systems. And building an IT system for that is a challenge, no doubt. But that's not the only issue with that project. So we're working through things and we're aiming to get it right and we'll go from there. So the rest of our budget be, 11%. There's not a lot of wiggle room here, rent and building services, postage and printing, internal services, and then other includes things like furniture and all sorts of other personnel expenses, other types of contracts, travel expenses, those types of things. We have our DAs and field auditors who are field based. We also have folks based in Montpelier who have to travel, those types of things. Our travel expenses are not super high. And then internal service funds like this revolving fund and our finance and management fees. I put ADS fees under IT for this, just kind of group it all together.
Yeah, so
I'm trying to see this in a future layout, but the IT portion of that, is that one time for improvements or is that ongoing?
Everything. It's both. It's both.
Combined.
It's combined.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll just go ahead 2 slides. Our IT expenses are actually down.
Oh.
And that's this year. And that's because we're coming off several implementations. We're at the very end, essentially coming off the implementation of the new property tax system. We just shifted current use into the VTAX system that went live at the end of December. That used to be in an older legacy system. It's now in our integrated tax system. We just wrapped up the scanning project. So coming off of those implementations has alleviated some pressure, but that can swing year over year. And then there's ongoing maintenance and support payments, ADS payments for servers, different types of hardware, that type of thing that go in there. There's also things like our Chainbridge micro simulation software that we share with the Joint Fiscal Office, following policy changes. That goes through IT. So that can swing year over year. We do, for full transparency, we do from our IT fund have the remainder of a multi-year appropriation. It's about 3.2 million that remains. That would save for a number of years for a version upgrade of our integrated tax system, which we're at the outset of. So we're updating our integrated tax system this year. We're on what's called version 12. DMV is on Core 21, which came out in 2021. And DOL's on Core 26, which is 2026, and we're upgrading to Core 26.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyways, it's a lot of inside baseball there.
Well, that's okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. And that's going to be a big project for us internally this year. So in terms of current initiative, implementing new policies, including a range of new personal income tax credit and exemption updates, new local option tax towns. That's a big lift at this point every year. We're looking at something like 4 to 8 of these pretty much on an annual basis. And there's a lot of outreach and there's a lot of work on that front. And then there's a lot of work moving forward with various remote sellers or sellers that might be in your border or that might have postal zip code that's typically associated with a town instead of a city. So there's a lot of outreach and education on that front. It's a bit of a lift, but we're happy to do it.
We're about to request that you could give us a preview of what is out there.
in transportation.
Oh, okay. In terms of an overview of existing local option towns and what's to come on the horizon.
What, particularly what is it?
Yeah, we had part of that, part of that to do with the what towns and history and all that, so.
Yeah, sure. I think I shared with, and I'd be happy to share with you all. I did create a list for ourselves, and I think I shared with Chris about towns that indicated they will vote on lot in 2026. And these are just the ones that have communicated it to us.
Yeah.
Towns that have reached out and indicated they are considering it, but haven't indicated they're going to. And then towns that have reached out to just explore it. And it's looking like 7 towns have indicated they will vote in 2026. Again, those are just the ones we know of.
Right.
You want to know what they are right now?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, yes, we running out of time. Then people want to be ready for transportation.
We can come back.
Oh.
I can also, if you want,
Enjoy.
I'm happy.
Is there any on the other side of Mount Mansfield? That's all he wants to know.
I'm happy to email it to you too, based on those chunks. That saves you also.
Well, the department's gonna have to communicate.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sounds good. But will there be pie? That goes well.
I can probably, depending how lucrative it looks,
You might sweeten the deal.
I might.
You can negotiate with the transportation share.
So other initiatives, we want to maintain high service levels this tax season, and some of our KPIs are further in here. But one KPI I want to spotlight that isn't in our typical performance management budget are phone calls. We handled 115,000 calls in the calendar year 25. That's over 90% of calls that came in. And the call wait times were down to 1 minute 5 seconds, which was a bit over 20-second reduction from the year prior, which was an improvement on the year prior to that. So I'm pleased with that. When I talk with colleagues in other states, I don't hear of any wait times in terms of those departments of tax and revenue that low. So got a great team handling this at our department. Just going through this emphasis on employee growth this year.
We skip to other slides.
Okay.
You're running out.
Ups and downs. This is just a summary of the ups and downs. You have a more granular one later on, but high level salaries and wages are up $568,425. You've got health insurance up, retirement up, other benefits and workers' comp. That's down a little. I don't remember exactly what goes in there. Honestly, this can just be like 1 or 2 in employee situations that can lead to this being up or down. Decrease in contractual services. That's pretty much all due to the coming off of the implementation stage of several IT projects. One other thing in here, we're part of the multi-state tax commission's joint audit committee. It's a bunch of states that come together to pool resources, and there's this common group of auditors that audit corporate income tax. Really, really big multinational corporations typically is what they focus on. And our payment into that dropped precipitously after California joined. So it's kind of based on scale, and they're big, and so they pay more, and we're paying less than we had anticipated paying. Increase in accessibility costs for interpreters. In the past couple of years, we've placed a heavy emphasis on providing enhanced interpretation and translation services. Our spend on that was a bit over $22,000 last year. In the past, we didn't budget at all for this, which frankly, not an ideal situation. I'm glad we're budgeting for it now. In the past, we have used surplus. For the past 2-3 years, this has been an emphasis of ours. We put a heavy emphasis on accessibility. Major updates to our forms last year and this year, and there's major ADA laws going into effect in April, which in general enhance access to various accessibility services. Increase in education and training contracts. This is in response to employee feedback from the employee engagement survey, where our employees told us they want more opportunities to grow, they want more education opportunities. They want to develop different skill sets to help them do their jobs better. And so we're taking that seriously, and we want to support them. Increase in service of papers. I wish I could summarize this under something else. For some reason, this goes under personal services on here. And to get the numbers to line up, I had to put it on here. That's just $3,000 for things like expenses for process servers or sheriff's departments, serving legal documents like summons.
If it's 3,000, we don't.
Yeah. Great. And then net operating expenses, that's ADS charges, ISFs, education supplies, education and training expenses for conferences, travel, general liability insurance, office equipment, those types of things. So, I mean, we don't really have much discretion in terms of being able to meet our core mission. We put the emphasis on the people and the IT systems, and where we have a little bit of wiggle room, we do things like put an emphasis on education and training.
Yeah, I think your slide 10 is a good example of that compared to other agencies where I've seen these numbers. You're doing very well. And they got folios, give us credit.
Yeah, I think Craig took that to another level. I think Kai Sampson is now at DFR. When he came in, he put a heavy emphasis on this, and then I think Craig took it to another level. And then this is something that's really important to Commissioner Schultes as well. I don't know if you want to touch on this at all.
Yeah, no, we when they did the survey this year, we went around every department and we said, please do us a favor and be as accurate and as honest as you can, because if we don't hear from you, we can't readjust our priorities to serve you. And I think they took us up on that seriously, and they came back with a lot of ideas about things they needed to grow and develop on a career path basis. And it's hard enough to recruit somebody in this tight labor market. And so our emphasis around employee satisfaction and retention, giving them career paths and opportunities so that they can see their both compensation as well as their professional fulfillment accomplished by staying.
Yeah, compared to some of the numbers we've seen in my morning committee, they're impressive.
And you probably know, Mr. Chairman, I inherited this legacy. It's nothing I've done to drive these numbers. Next year you can take me off the holes around it.
I go down 20.
I don't know. You were in the role for about 6 months when this took place.
Yeah, well, that helps.
So,
And how many positions do you have? Are you having difficulty hiring?
we have, why don't I go to the vacancy? Right. So
Slides 23.
23, yeah. So we are struggling in one area of our operations primarily to hire. Outside of that area, and that's our compliance division. Outside of our compliance division, we've had less than a 5% vacancy rate, which is pretty great. And when I came into this role in early 2021, we were just at the beginning of a big attrition cycle. And I want to say that year our vacancy rate got up to 25%, something like that, which was really, really high. So we formed a cross-divisional department-wide recruiting team and put a heavy emphasis on recruitment materials, outreach, those types of things. And we were able to get our vacancy rate down. Typically it was between 5 and 6.5% for several years. And then around last year, last fiscal year, we started to have some more vacancies in our compliance division. And we also had some supervisors, including our audit manager, who's now with transportation, shipped. Frankly, they were recruited. Many of them were recruited from elsewhere in state government. And losing audit manager, key audit supervisor, and a couple of other supervisors then meant that we didn't have people in the hiring manager role. But even when you have people in the hiring manager role, right now, this is all around the country, this is a difficult group to recruit for. And frankly, we don't compensate as highly as other states, nowhere near as highly as the private sector for this skill set. And we're often able to, in other areas like in our taxpayer services area, we're able to find folks from banking, insurance, and other similar fields that are service oriented and intersect with the financial space, where people can be educated on the tax side to help on that service front. But when it comes to auditing, doing certain types of auditing, it's much more difficult to find qualified applicants. And frankly, the work is not, I don't think it's I don't think it's as appealing to as many people as maybe some of the more service oriented work. Even though this group does do a lot of service work, they do a lot of education, they do a lot on the voluntary compliance end. It's tough work, and we did just have a class action RFR for all of our positions. And that just went up one pay grade. All of those positions went up one pay grade. I don't know that that's going to be enough. I'm not necessarily ideological, but I'm not a huge fan of the market factor adjustment. It creates equities. I realized Amy's over here. I mean, frankly, the state is the state is very ripe for an update to our classification system.
Right, well, we gave you some money to start that last year. They're working on it.
Yeah. It cannot come soon enough. From my perspective.
Okay, that's good to hear.
But in general, so we're working with our compliance division. It's still tough sledding. I was meeting with our compliance director earlier today. About the situation. But outside of that, our vacancy rate is very low. So our vacancy rate's trending down, but it's been trending down closer to like 10-11% this year. And compliance that's a priority recruitment area for us.
I like the way you have your presentation. I'm not going to get through all of the slides, but that you have programming your goals and some metrics from the past years. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Presentation. And then you have all the mandates. And which one you have completed. I think that's awesome.
And that's just from last year. We're a department that receives every year a heavy policy build in terms of implementation.
Right.
We call it the ledge build. It's like things pass through the legislature and now we need to build it. And our ledge build every year is pretty hefty.
So there's like 10 pages here. That's just from last year.
That's just last year. So you can go to our website and take a look at prior year legislative mandates. And if you have questions about the status of any of them, I'm happy to answer. But I didn't want to fill this, with 100 pages.
Right. And I appreciate you getting back to me on that weird military day for.
Oh yeah, no problem.
What else? Anything else?
The only other thing I'd spotlight at a high level is just let me go and under our grants we administer. I would put grants in quotation marks because I don't really view any of them as true grants. But we have our sorry, I'm trying to move to. So we have pilot, we have homeowner rebate, we have renter credit, but reappraisal and listing payments are one of our grants. And there's a proposal to shift this to the pilot fund. So it's in the general fund. In 2018, I believe it was 2018, shifted from that fund to the general fund. This would shift to the pilot fund. The BAA shifts this to the pilot fund this fiscal year. Most of this has already been spent, so we would just have to do like a journal entry to make it so that
this just carries into next fiscal year what we did for this fiscal year in the DA.
Yes. Yeah.
No changes to the dollar number.
No. Yeah. And it's pretty say it's $8.50 per parcel payment, $1 per parcel payment, $100,000 lister education program, $70,000 for utility valuation.
Why isn't it just $9.50 per parcel instead of $8.50?
They're for different purposes and different sections of statute, but it's a good question. And there's now the proposal to have an additional $66 per parcel.
Right. Yeah, that's why you're going to go into transportation. They have other things they want to talk to.
All right.
Okay, so that's really all the change. Everything else, that one page of up and downs is pretty straightforward. Of just increases the wages.
Yeah, when I was in here before on just when I was in here before on the BAA, the homeowner rebate, the reason it's down, same reason here. That's the circuit breaker payment to municipalities to make them whole from the general fund. And then rent, it says renter rebate, but it's really renter credits. That's up.
So it's like saying the VA one's down, one's up.
Yeah. But in the BAA, it's up to 11 million this year for the renter credit, and we're estimating 11.5 million And that's it. And that accounts for inflation. It gets adjusted for inflation.
Okay.
All right.
I don't have any questions. Anybody else have any questions? Tax, quiz the new commissioner, or is not that new anymore?
Yeah, no, I thank you for your time, and I would just say that the question I didn't ask Andrew and Rebecca and the governor when I took this position was, I asked it after I got the job, was how much money do we have in the budget to do things that we want to do? Interested in that. So my entrepreneurial spirit was, and flame was doused immediately, but we'll find a way to do with the resources we have and get people to get excited about it. I see what happens. It should be fun.
I appreciate the entrepreneurial spirit. Okay, well, with that, we can take a break until legal aid gets here. Maybe they're in the hallway.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah.